323. I hope that you guys have all had a chance to watch the how to make a peanut butter sandwich video and maybe had a good laugh or two along the way. For today's writing lesson, we're going to be talking about how-to writing. And so I thought one of my favorite things to do, especially right now, is bake. And in talking to a lot of you, so many of you have told me that you've been baking with your family too. So we thought that we would do a little bit of a how-to lesson that goes with baking. So what I've done is we're going to do a how-to, and I'm gonna make some peanut butter cookies with you guys. Not for you guys. My husband will probably eat them. They're his favorite thing in the world. So he's gonna be really excited when he comes home from work today. So what I did is I wrote my recipe out onto a big piece of paper, and I know you can't see all of it. There just wasn't a good place to hang it up. And I got all of my stuff and my ingredients ready. And we're going to take a look at if my how-to writing was specific enough and if I follow all of the directions as I go. And I noticed, even from the time I was writing my stuff out to the time when I went and got all of my things I needed, that I was not specific enough. And I actually missed a couple of things along the way. And that's okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at my recipe and my materials, and then we'll get started baking. I hope you can see most of what I'm gonna do. If not, then I will maybe have to take some pictures along the way too. So I got my handy dandy donut pointer out today because donuts over gummy bears, we're baking. So I wrote at the top how to make, and then I put peanut butter cookies. So the first thing I did was I listed all of my materials. So those are the things that I'm going to need in order to be able to do this properly. How-to writing almost always needs the materials or the what you need section at the top. Even if you were gonna do like how to kick a soccer ball, you'd wanna tell somebody first that they needed a soccer ball. So with recipes, the materials or the ingredients are almost always listed at the very, very top. It's one of the first things you do. I like to get all of my stuff out and organized before I begin so that I'm not looking around for things as I go. So it said that I needed 1 cup of peanut butter. So I got my big jar of peanut butter, and I got a 1 cup measuring cup. I forgot to put the measuring cups on my materials list. That was something I noticed right away. Then it says I need 1/2 cup of sugar. So I got out my sugar. You can tell this bag's almost empty. And then I got out my 1/2 cup scoop. And it says I need 1 egg. So I got out 1 egg. It says I need 1 bowl. I got out a bowl. It says I needed 1 spoon. Check. It says I needed 1 oven, which my oven's right here. And it says that I needed 1 cookie sheet. I got my cookie sheet out and I actually put a piece of parchment paper on it because I don't like when my cookies stick to my cookie sheets. So I should have included that on my materials list. I also grabbed a knife. And this I thought afterwards would be helpful with my peanut butter to do some scooping. And I grabbed an oven mitt, which I thought would be helpful at the end. So I should have included those things on my materials list. So if I was going to write this out as like a writing assignment to hand in to you, I would make sure that I added those things in after I was finished. So if I look on my list, I've written my directions step by step all the way through. I put a number beside them on the side. Oh, I have to use my donut. Put a number beside them on the side, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I realized after that some of my steps could have been spread out a little bit better, but I did use words like first, next, then, and last. Those are super important when we do how-to writing, so that we know the order our steps are going to go in. So the very first step, number 1, says to turn the oven on to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it uses the word first. I already turned my oven on to 325 degrees Fahrenheit because I know that it takes a little bit to warm up. So I've had it going for a few minutes already. So check, step 1's done. Number 2, it says next, put peanut butter, sugar, and egg into your bowl. I should have been more specific. I was not specific enough with my directions because I could put the peanut butter and the sugar and the egg into the bowl. And that doesn't help me. So what I should have done was I should have done 1 step at a time to measure out 1 cup of peanut butter and put it in the bowl, measure out 1/2 cup of sugar and put it in the bowl, measure out, well, I guess crack my egg and put it in the bowl. I should have broken those things down step by step, but I didn't. I lumped them all together. So if I were to go through my writing at the end, I would make sure I separated those things out. But I can't write while it's up here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add those 3 ingredients to the bowl using the measurements that were up here in my recipe. So, peanut butter. Peanut butter is one of my favorite things in the world, and it is my husband's absolute favorite. So we use a lot of peanut butter in our house. So I'm going to use a knife because otherwise this gets pretty messy. I'm going to try to get as much peanut butter in one go as I can, just to make this a little bit easier. And that filled about 1/3 of it. My grade 3s have been working on fractions, know what 1/3 means. I need a little bit more. I'm getting there though. So when you're picking a recipe today, I want you to think about your favorite things and your family's favorite things. And then at the end, we're going to talk about what you need to do with your recipe. Well, this should maybe be enough now. All right, so peanut butter is a little hard to measure perfectly. But you can see I got my 1 cup and he's pretty full. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scoop him out of here and into my bowl. Make sure I got all the peanut butter. And there's my peanut butter in my bowl. Wipe off my knife. And I can close my peanut butter back up. Step 1. Well, not really. Part of step 2, I guess. So, now I take my sugar and my little 1/2 cup. And I'm just going to stick my 1/2 cup right inside my sugar bag, because he's getting down to the very bottom. Oh, I might actually have to open the second sugar bag. Well, anyways, have to dump it. So I didn't quite get the whole thing full. So we're going to just gently go until I get all of it. Ooh, pretty close. All right. Good thing I have another sugar bag ready for my next recipe. So I'm going to dump my 1/2 cup of sugar inside of my bowl. Then I'm going to get my 1 egg. And cracking eggs can be pretty tricky. Takes a little bit of practice. And I'm going to put that in the sink. I'm going to rinse my hands off. Oven is ready. That's good. So my next step tells me that I need to mix all of the ingredients together. So I'm going to take my bowl. I don't know if you can see all the stuff going on inside my bowl. And I'm going to mix it up. And I make peanut butter cookies a lot, so I know that it gets kind of gummy. And it takes a little bit to get it all mixed super, super well. And I might even need to grab another little bit of sugar. Doesn't look like that maybe was quite enough. Stir just a couple more seconds and see if it, oh yeah, we're good. It's thickening up now. I like making peanut butter cookies because they make super fast and they don't have a lot of ingredients in them. But I don't actually like peanut butter cookies. I will not eat them at all. That's my weird fact about me for today. All right, so you can see I've got it all mixed up. So step 4 says to roll the dough into balls and to put them on the cookie sheet. So I know that this can get really, really messy, and I'm not a huge fan of rolling them into super perfect balls. I kind of just take little globbies of them and pop them onto my cookie sheet as I go along. So they're kind of ball-like, but they're not really perfect balls, which is okay with me. My husband doesn't care what they look like. He just likes to eat them. So I've made this recipe enough times that I know that I can get about 12 cookies, sometimes 13, sometimes 11, depending on how big I make them. And so that's how I spread them out. Recipes will usually tell you on the top how many of something you're going to get. So it'll tell you that it sometimes uses the word yields. Yields means makes. And it'll tell you how many. So with these cookies, I know the yield is about 12, depending on how big you make them. So, oh, we're getting down here to the end. I made pretty big ones today. We might not get 12 out of them. Almost. Okay, there's 9. I might only get 10. That's okay. I'll get 10 really big cookies. All right, so I did only get 10 out of my cookies today, which is okay. They're pretty big. I'm gonna rinse my hands off because they're all goopy. Now, I'll go wash my hands properly when I'm done, I promise. But I'm realizing when I look at the next direction that I missed on something else. It says, then flatten dough with a fork. Awesome. I didn't get a fork out. I should have put fork under materials. So I'm gonna grab a fork. Thankfully, they're close. And I'm gonna use my handy dandy fork. Now, let me see if I can do this. Hopefully now you can maybe see my cookies. I can see they're pretty big globby balls. I'm gonna use my fork just to flatten them out and make sure, because peanut butter cookies don't rise the same way other ones do. So you wanna keep them nice and flat so they cook all the way through. And then they get that kind of lime look on the top that are pretty common with peanut butter cookies. All right, almost got all of them flattened out with my fork. That's part of why I don't worry about rolling them into perfect balls, because you flatten them back out anyways. I don't like the way this guy looks. I'm just gonna fix him. Okay, there we go. So, got them flattened with a fork. That was step number 5. Check. Now my last step, number 6, says it says last, put the cookie sheet in the oven for 20 minutes. That's great. I should have had a step 7 that tells you to take the cookie sheet out of the oven after 20 minutes. And that you're probably gonna need to let your cookies cool before you eat them. If you tried to eat them right away, which my husband does do sometimes, they fall apart and they get all crumbly. So I'm gonna pop my peanut butter cookies into the oven, and then we're gonna talk really quick about my recipe and my how-to and how I could have made that better. All right, and let me set a timer. All right, and I stay pretty close to the peanut butter cookies because sometimes they're ready a minute or 2 early. So with my how-to writing, I had my title, peanut butter cookies. I had my materials, which I should have added a couple of things to, like the knife, the fork, and the measuring cups. But I did figure it out, so it was okay. Then with my steps, there was a few things where I said I needed to be more specific or add more details. And that's okay. It's okay when we're writing to edit as we go along. So I would split this step up that says to add the peanut butter, the sugar, and the egg into the bowl, and I would explain all of the different pieces of it. I would maybe change where I said then roll the dough into balls and put them onto a cookie sheet. I didn't roll my dough into balls. That was just what the recipe originally said. And I would add a step 7 that says to take the cookies out of the oven and to let them cool before you eat them. So what your job is going to be now is you have a couple of options. You can sit down with your parents or your family or whoever's home with you, and you could pick a recipe out of maybe a recipe book or a box that your family has. That's where I got my recipe from. It's one my mom gave me, and then I copied it down. So, or if you don't have any recipes laying around your house, you can always go on Epic Books and search cookbooks, and there are tons of cookbooks on there for kids that have kid-friendly recipes for you. Once you have a recipe found, you and your family are going to work together to either make the recipe or to do the how-to writing. I should rephrase that. Everybody needs to do the how-to writing. That part everyone has to do. Your family might choose to help you make the recipe when you're done. So what you're going to be doing is basically turning a recipe into some how-to writing, kind of like I did. There is a template on the website that you can have your family print off for you if they have a printer, where you can then write out the steps of a recipe. But you need to make sure you have the title, the materials, and all of your steps in order by number. If you don't have a printer, you can also copy it out onto a blank piece of paper, or you could type it up. I would like to see all of your how-to writing, because then we can share all of our cool recipes with each other. So if you're somebody who bakes all the time, make sure you pick something cool for me, because I want to see some new recipes. If your family says you don't have time to bake, that's totally okay. You don't have to. And if your family chooses to cook something like supper instead, just make sure you use a how-to writing, go along and do the steps, and then send me whatever you worked on. I'd love to see pictures of you in the kitchen working away, and I know that Mrs. Thompson would as well. So make sure you have super specific steps. Don't fall into the trap like those kids did with the peanut butter sandwich. Specific steps all the way through. Send me what you got. I hope you guys have a lot of fun baking this week. I can't wait to see what happens. Have fun, guys.